What's up, everybody? It's Izzy, and in today's video, as I've been promising or teasing for a while now, I'm going to talk about why I am switching back to conventional deadlift. So first, the boring answer, of course, is that my coach told me that he thought it was a good idea. So that's a good enough reason right there, number one. But anyway, I'm going to start this video off with two clips where you'll see me missing a 600 deadlift and then another one where I make it. So in the first clip, I missed this primarily because of windmilling on my underhand. But it's pretty indicative still of the problem that I'm going to be talking about throughout the video with unrounding your back when you're a sumo puller, or at least, in my particular case. So the main reason why switching to conventional was something that I brought up to Joey in the first place was because despite my best efforts, and I've been training sumo, for 3, 4, I think maybe even 5 years now, and when things get heavy, my back ultimately ends up super rounded, despite the fact that I'm only moderately rounded in most of my, or all of my training. And as you'll basically see in the video, when you are a super round back puller sumo, you get put in a horrible position to finish the lift. It's just very ugly, and the leverage is extremely poor. Because unlike conventional, the bar, your hands are not outside your legs, and the bar is not really resting on your legs. So you can't lay back to sort of help finish the lift and get rid of that rounding. Whereas with a conventional deadlift, that's exactly what you can do with your hands outside of your legs. Your legs can rebend to a certain degree. And of course, I'm not talking about ramping or hitching illegally, because that will get called. But there's a certain amount of that is possible legally that doesn't get called, that never gets called. And it really helps people who are round back pullers to kind of lay back and finish the pull while their back is unrounding. And again, the idea here is basically just that because I always end up rounded, I've been trying to fix the problem for years and just haven't been successful. And of course, you could just blame that I wasn't, strict enough or patient enough. But it's something that I've been trying to fix for a long time and haven't been able to do so for whatever reason. And instead of trying to go against my natural tendencies of where I'm strongest, which is of course with a fully rounded back, at least that's where I'm strongest on truly maximal attempts, it made sense to me to maybe consider at least trying conventional deadlifts where unrounding is not an issue. So for me personally, for conventional deadlifts, I've always been able to max out far more than what my rep work would indicate. Whereas with sumo, I would be able to hit crazy rep numbers for me, and then the maxes wouldn't translate. I'd be able to do things like triples with 95% or something like that. And the big reason why it wouldn't translate, of course, is that my back rounding was kind of specific to the percentage of my 1RM that was on the bar. So I could maintain a significantly flatter back, below 95%, which allowed me to do more reps with it than my, max would indicate. Again, though, with conventional, that's never been the case for me. I've actually always been able to outperform my rep work, and I'm hoping that that's going to be the case this time as well. Now, am I sure that's going to be the case? Nope, of course not. So we're going to try it for a training block or longer, probably longer than that to give it a real fair shot. And, if it ends up being successful and if I end up, being in the ballpark as far as strength on my conventional versus where I was sumo, it'll probably be a long-term switch for me. But in the short term, that's what's going to be going on with my deadlift. I'm going to be training it conventional, and I think, there's a lot of factors that go into this. It's probably not an appropriate switch to make for everybody. For example, if you're a round back sumo puller who misses off the ground, maybe it's not as important that you consider switching to conventional. Whereas if you're a round back sumo puller that misses near the knees or above the knees because you can't unround, then it's potentially a consideration you might want to make. In general, when you're a sumo puller, it's much harder to get away with a rounded back than it is conventional, unless you just have super long arms. And the main reason for this is, like I said, there's just not as the leverage is just very poor when your hands are inside of your legs and your legs are basically already locked. In sumo, your legs are basically already locked out by the time the bar is just above your knees. And that's not really the case in most people's conventionals, where your knees and hips lock pretty much simultaneously. Now, some people do lock their knees and hips simultaneously on sumo as well, but again, the leverage there is just a lot worse in terms of the bar being able to slide up your thighs when your hands are inside your legs and your legs are out at an angle. Whereas, again, I've already mentioned this a bunch of times, but with conventional, it's a lot easier to get a small ramping effect up your legs legally while you're sitting there unrounding. So I guess the point of the video is, in general, if you're a sumo puller, it's going to be much more difficult to get away with rounding than if you're a conventional puller. And by all accounts, for most people, it's inappropriate to try to pull sumo with a fully rounded back. It just, technically, in terms of the leverages, it's probably not going to work out super well for you. And I think you'll find that most of the elite sumo pullers, with very few exceptions, and the few exceptions tend to be people with extremely long arms that lock out just above their knees, so they don't need to ramp anyway because the lift is already over. But in general, you'll find that top sumo pullers pull with almost a perfectly flat back, if not very, very close. Whereas there are plenty of examples of rounded back conventional pullers who do just fine being able to unround their back at the top. And in fact, with conventional, it's probably more so the rule that people are rounded rather than flat. In any case, this is going to be an experiment for me as this ice cream truck rolls by, but it's going to be an experiment for me. It's maybe not something that I'm is applicable to all of you guys out there, but if you do pull rounded sumo and you have issues unrounding, this is something to consider. There are cases, of course, where some people are better conventional. And this could potentially be one of those times where someone is better suited to conventional if they're just always stronger with the super round back. At this point, I feel like I'm rambling, so I'm going to go ahead and cut off the video here. In any case, my friends, I hope you have a great day. Hope your training is going well. And happy gains to you, I guess. Peace.